Warning: the following episode contains spoilers for the films Overlord and the seminal, genre-defining classic, John Carpenter, Black Pit in Church. Someone should have interrupted me by now. Well, since no one seems to be showing up, it's finally time to get to my backstory. And, hey, other Keith here, of course. Since the release of this episode is going to be so perfectly timed, I thought I'd just come in and talk about what's going on this weekend. So, this coming Saturday, March 9th, we have It's All Been Done Radio Hour's March show, our monthly live show at Mad Lab, which starts at 4:30. Or rather, the doors open at 4:30, and then we usually have an opener at 4:45, and the main show itself starts at 5 o'clock. The read-through for it was really fun this past week. Looking forward to the penultimate installment of Privates, which was a sketch we started recently doing last fall, in which I play like a old-style, like Leslie Nielsen type detective voice, with more puns than I thought anyone could ever get away with, if we are, in fact, getting away with them. And since the full-length play Happy Pills opens at Mad Lab this weekend, I'll also be in that later that night at 8 o'clock. And then after that, around 10 o'clock, there's going to be It's All Been Done Radio Hour Classic, where we redo some live performances that people might have missed for various reasons, back from the early days of it, with some updated casting and a few improvements to the story. And it's always a good way for more recent audience members to be able to come and see the beginnings of certain storylines and see why we are where we are in the current storylines and so forth. So it's going to be a packed day there. You should come and check it out if you're in the Columbus area, because that's where it is. And yes, thank you. Roll the title. Welcome to Marianne's Macabre Review.
Alrighty, folks, welcome to Marianne's Macabre Review. We have with us today Jessica, Stephen, Keith, and myself. Alright, so let's get into it. Jessica, would you like to give us a synopsis?
Sure. So this takes place in World War II, and it's about a company of soldiers the night before D-Day who are tasked with destroying a tower in this French village so that the Allies can give air support for D-Day. Little do they know, wandering into this French village, that, whoops, the Nazis have been doing experiments on the villagers. Do you want me to go any further?
But do shenanigans happen after that?
So many. So many.
I usually don't watch war movies, and this had a lot of that in it. And I kept thinking, gosh, where did the zombies come in? They did. They certainly did. Oh my gosh, did they? I kind of wish maybe they'd come in a little bit sooner, but I guess you can't separate either two. You have to have the war and this one for when this was taking place and everything. So that was just my opinion on it. What did you think, Steve?
Of the movie?
Yeah.
I really did enjoy it. I knew going into it I would, though, just for many different reasons. Mm-hmm. And it kind of lived up to my expectations, mm-hmm. I was happy to say. One of the things I really did like about it is, as you guys already said, it starts out very much a World War II movie. Mm-hmm. So you get to meet the characters in a situation that's, while horrific, is not genre horror. You get to meet them that way before the actual horror stuff comes in. I always like it when films or novels can do that, mm-hmm. as opposed to just going full to the wall horror, because it makes you empathize with characters a lot better.
Yeah, so. And you get like their dynamic with each other.
Exactly, outside of the crazy shit. So
I agree, actually. I thought it was scary enough on its own at the beginning. Like, that could have been the horror itself, just them trying to get through the minefield even before that. And just the shots of them in the plane with the other planes around them exploding, things like that. Was just, I'm not really doing it justice by just synopsizing it that way, but it was very tense.
Yeah, that they had to parachute in the middle of the night with all this gunfire, and they're
just bombs going off everywhere, and yeah, that was insane. I was just, oof. Since I don't watch war movies usually, this was a little more tense for me. I definitely was anxious through most of it, which is odd for me because I love horror films and I don't get anxious in those. So this is obviously where my line is drawn in some places. Why I like certain films and don't like others. What do we really like about this? Let's talk about that.
I really liked their explanation for the zombies. I mean, like, they didn't go too much into detail. They're like, there's this thing underneath this town, this resource that they didn't really describe, but they're like, it's been just sitting there, and they didn't know it was there, and it can make them 1,000-year soldiers is what he called them. But it's like, it's a good excuse for there to be zombies in the middle of World War II.
Yeah.
It's Nazi experimentation. And they didn't really need to go into super detail about it. Because usually when they get too sciencey with their explanations, it just ends up sounding stupid.
It's like some were zombies and some were monsters, it seemed like. Because
I wouldn't necessarily... Zombie is just like the way I can describe what they are.
Yeah, like Fitz's character, I don't know what his actual character name is, but the guy from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Chase, was it
Oh
Chase?
God, was that who that actor was?
Yeah, it was Fitz.
I was like, where's he from? I couldn't think of it, but...
When he ripped his head off,
Fitz?
practically. Yeah.
Exactly. I can totally see it now, but okay.
We had to look it up, me and Mom and Dad, because we're like, is that Fitz? And we were like...
No accent, so you're totally like...
Yeah, you're like, oh God.
When he like tears his head off and these bones start coming out of him, I'm like, what is happening? That was a great scene, though. I love that scene.
Some really good body horror on top of everything else.
Yeah, reminded me of The Thing a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we want to get into that
Bones
now?
Yeah.
sticking out.
Okay, because one of the main characters is Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell.
Oh my gosh.
And all throughout it, I'm like, yep, that's son of McCready. Or actually, if you're going to do like a timeline thing, it could be that's McCready's dad.
yeah.
Huh?
The blonde dude?
Yeah, that's Wyatt Russell.
Oh my God. I've only ever seen him in like, what is it, 22 Jump Street?
Okay.
So I've seen him in comedy stuff.
Oh wow, he did a really good job.
Yeah.
I kept saying he looked familiar. So.
Yeah, and anytime he got like really intense, it's like he's totally channeling his dad in the thing right there.
Yeah.
So it's funny you made that connection. Yeah, because the body horror and all that weird stuff. But yeah, there's another connection that's outside of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Keith, did you have anything what was your favorite?
I'm still kind of stuck on just the way that it began. It's really that there's sort of that through line of, I won't say realism necessarily, because obviously I've never been in Nazi occupied France, but it felt that the urgency was felt for things like that.
Yeah. My favorite of the horror things was the woman that was talking that was just ahead. And just in her spine. That was amazing.
That was creepy as hell.
So
She was
good.
like, please stop, please stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
In French. But
Yeah. Keith speaks French, so I was able to understand. What? You translated it for me?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to say I speak. It's kind of an exaggeration.
Every time I ask Keith what this French thing is, he knows it. So I'm just saying he speaks French because
He understands French, maybe is a better way to put it.
Keith understands French. What else?
it also had, realistic war stuff. Like, they suggested it, like, the lady who ratted out the French girl, Chloe, because she was out after curfew, wasted no time, knows this woman, because Chloe's like, Mrs. whatever the hell your name is, it's just me, it's Chloe, I'm on my way home.
She's like, tweet,
and
tweet.
she's like, you're out, I'm gonna tell them, and she whistles and the Germans come, and you're like, fuh. Mm-hmm. Or the fact that the general, visits her frequently, and that's probably why she and her brother haven't been taken.
Yeah.
Because he forces her to let him rape her. Like, he makes her ask for it, basically.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. When I was like, you're not really giving her a choice, why are you asking? And I'm like,
it's like,
I know the answer.
This or your brother. And it's like,
How do you make a Gestapo look even worse? Make him a rapist. Okay.
They could use a child as a body, as a body shield. It's like, what's happening? What are you doing? You just make yourself look worse.
Yeah, so it was like throwing in the realistic, real-world horror along with the creatures.
Things growing out of people and heads falling off. And yeah. So you watched it earlier this week with your parents, and your mom and Dad didn't know anything that it was.
They did not know anything about it.
They were just like, "Oh, great, a war movie."
So, what was their take when things switched?
Well, they knew that something strange. Like, I think they'd heard enough about it that they knew it wasn't just a regular movie.
Oh, okay.
My mom actually figured out pretty quick. Like, she was watching and she's like, "I think they're doing something and they're not people anymore." And then when he showed that scene with the ant, and Mom's like, "See, I told you it was a creature."
What about your dad?
They liked it.
Oh, good.
Like, and Dad's a military dude. And, I mean, I watch a lot of war movies, which doesn't translate to, correct military knowledge. Mm-hmm. There are some things that are not entirely accurate, but they didn't really bother me in this movie. But, like, Mom really didn't like the guy who kept talking until, like, the end where he, like, showed that he's not just a loudmouth asshole.
Yeah.
And Dad's like, "Well, honey, he's just scared." And, like, people will do that. They'll just, like, keep running off with the mouth because they're scared, and that's how they deal with it. And I was like, "Oh, Dad, look at you." But they both liked it. They were like, "Oh, it's a pretty good movie." And Mom doesn't really like horror. My parents don't really watch horror that much.
Nice.
But they enjoyed it.
That's good. What did we not like?
I wish... Now, granted, I'm glad they didn't, like, hit us over the head with it. But I would have liked a little bit more background on the church. Just something to kind of hint at the sinister supernatural part of it. I'm glad they didn't, like you said earlier, I'm glad they didn't, like, bludgeon us with it.
Story.
Here's blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But I would have liked some more foreshadowing or some other explanation of,
like,
I don't
what
know.
the hell is
a little bit
this?
more.
Yeah.
Maybe make it a little bit more supernatural creepy as opposed to just Nazi body horror experimental creepy. But that was one flaw I thought of. What else didn't I like? I was surprised so many people lived.
Yeah, that was. I
mean,
like,
I say a complaint.
all my favorites lived except for Kurt Russell's son.
Yeah, when you got into that, like, my first thought when he hung him up by a hook, I was like, "Oh, you just got Texas Chainsaw Massacre." Damn.
Like,
Some of the things were like, the small stuff was just like set up for shit that you knew was going to happen.
Right.
Like, I'm going to tell one person, and it's the journalist, to bring that guy downstairs.
Yeah.
Like, no, you would send at least 2 people because you have to untie him.
Yeah.
And then retie him and then move him downstairs.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't send one person.
Yeah. And the journalist, of all people.
Right.
Yeah.
Who has not shown to be competent at all up to that point.
At anything. Because he
Right.
was sent there to take photographs.
Yeah.
She asked knowingly.
Fitz was the photographer?
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought, for the most part, the direction was pretty good, but I thought, like, they really telegraphed the jump scares.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, okay, so you move the camera to the left a little bit. I should be looking over his shoulder for something. Yep, there it is.
Or like when he turns around and looks back down the hallway and turns
right. Very much well telegraphed jump scares, which...
Yeah. And those aren't scary. It's just like, well, I'm waiting for it.
Yeah.
All right, there it is.
We can get on with things.
Yeah. And it wasn't, and they didn't overdo it. It wasn't like, loud noise, so you would jump because of that. It was just like, oh, here's a thing.
Oh, here's this thing in your face.
In your face. The one thing that I'm not sure if I didn't like it or it was just maybe I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. But what was it something underground? Why were they harvesting stuff from French people's bodies? That whole keeping them in a sack of stuff. Was that goo in the sack?
Yeah, it was almost like, I thought of it like almost like a chrysalis. Like they're putting the bodies in there and pumping the shit from the church.
To see what happens to
and
them.
to kind of see what comes out, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then they took that goo, which was dripping into the cylinders, put those in syringes, and then just like, hey, let's test this.
It's just stick it in people.
And I mean, like, a lot of the experimentation that the Nazis and Japanese did during World War II was, we're going to do this and see what happens.
Yeah. And I feel like if that doctor had gotten that young, fresh boy, I think he would have done something to him. I think he would have... He just seemed like the type that would just be like, yay, all right. I mean, he already had him covered over. I was like, oh, shit.
But I could also see them... I mean, the general clearly knows that these people are going to come and do something. So it could have also been leverage.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll just save him for a little bit.
Yeah.
But this all takes place over, what is it, 4
12,
hours?
Yeah.
Less than 12 hours.
Yeah. So it is a pretty quick in between him being taken and them showing up, too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I could see, like, Doctor, what were you doing? You're clearly still here.
Yeah.
When Steve mentioned the church, it made me realize that, I don't know, it's possible that I was too distracted to really get a good sense of it. I felt like I didn't really know the scale of where they were and where they were traveling to and so forth. Like, were there enough establishing shots to show, as you were saying, the supernatural aspects of it? I don't even remember what the church looked like, or again, I might have been distracted or something during some scan through, but
yeah, and it was like kind of a strange church because it had that tower and all that stuff. And I was just like, it's France, I'll accept it.
Yeah, it's old.
That's why I finally noticed when he was running out to get away from the explosion. Just looked just like a tower. Not really a
churchy type thing.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I was thinking when she was running at the end to like set up the trap, I was like, if I had been that little German guard, like, well, why is she moving from the forest to the road? I would have been like, maybe there's a trap happening.
Oh yeah, and how the German soldiers are like, clearly his hands are tied to his motorcycle and he's got tape on his mouth.
Nothing's wrong.
Let me just rip this off because it's not suspicious at all.
And he's gesturing towards the thing frantically, the sidecar. I'm just like, oh god, these people are so dumb. I feel like there wouldn't have been that many dumb people there. Maybe. Just takes one to rip off the thing, and that causes the whole thing to...
That was the funniest part of the movie for me, actually. Every time they try to take the tape off his mouth, he just jerk his head away.
And your favorite line from the movie?
My favorite part was after the general... So when they sent the journalist up to bring down the general, and he, of course, kills the journalist, and the loudmouth guy starts beating the shit out of the general, and Kurt Russell's son is like, no, we need him! The guy's like, I'll get you another one! I was just like, oh, that's so... cracked me up so much. And it's just kind of throwaway, like if you're not listening to it, you won't hear it. And I think they had a few lines like that. Like if you're not paying attention, you won't hear what they're saying.
There were some good ones.
Yeah, I liked it.
Or we all laughed.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable. I had fun with it.
Yeah. It was good enough for her to get to actually purchase. So.
I'm thinking I might have to add that onto my collection because I want to. It's one of those movies when I want my friends to see it, and the easiest way to do that is to own a copy. Else they'll never watch it.
Well, I mean, I appreciated that they had several black protagonists. One that made it all the way through. It was something that happened to be part of the movie. It wasn't like a focus. It wasn't about race relations necessarily. It was just a strong, competent character who was compassionate, and that was it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. All of the black characters seemed confident. One was a leader, and then the other one was our main character was just one of the soldiers, and he just happened to be confident and...
Yeah, I would have liked to see more of the sergeant, because the actor that played the sergeant is a guy named Booker Woodbine, and I only see him in like comedic roles. So it was like, wow, okay, he's in this serious movie, and then of course he dies within like the first 15 minutes, but... it was cool. I really liked the characters.
What was your favorite horror part of it?
The scene with the head was really good. I liked that the gore was kept to a minimum. I think they really could have gone overboard with the with the story they were telling. There were, of course, made parts where it got kind of gruesome, but not over the top.
Along those lines, I'm not sure if we would call this a zombie movie necessarily, and one of the reasons for that is because it wasn't about them overwhelming human beings with their numbers. It was individually these things are very powerful and kind of formidable on their own, like almost unkillable. And so just that bit at the end where the corporal was locking himself in that gated area with the rest of them starting to come, starting to stand up. You go, oh my God, these things have to be stopped now. It's just not going to.
Yeah, they looked so impressive. Yeah.
Like they weren't like
rotted.
They weren't mangled or anything. This is just something that is powerful, standing up and getting ready to come out.
Yeah.
And going back to something you were saying before about the. It was either you and or Jessica, I think, about the science of it not getting too specific.
They didn't get specific at all. They just said Nazi science in some creepy stuff.
Yeah, there's a guru or something that came from somewhere under there. Well, I think J.J. Abrams, I'm not sure how much he had to do with this. Was a director? Or
he was, I think, the producer. Yeah, it was his production company, Bad Robot.
Oh, that's right. He said, because in the trivia it says J.J. Abrams at Paramount Cinemas, this is not an entry into the Cloverfield franchise, despite initial speculations. So I was like, I wouldn't think it was. But.
Yeah, and I'm sure people have their opinions about that series. I enjoyed it, and one of the reasons why is, I think, for some of those reasons, that kind of just enough to get you by. Like, there's some sort of explanation you're kind of understanding and figuring out, but they aren't getting really too specific, so you can't start pulling it apart too fast.
Right. I mean, although it's not an actual comic book movie, it has that kind of comic book type of science
Definitely
to it.
You can almost see the panels.
Right.
Especially as they were doing the shot-by-shot stuff.
Very much a pulp horror meets World War II drama type deal. So, and anytime you get undead Nazis, it warms my heart. I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion here, and I think this is like the third time on your podcast I promoted this story, but my story, The Proton Weird, the villain is an undead Nazi. So, of course, I enjoyed this movie from that aspect. So
Nice. The other horror aspect the other horror scene that I liked a lot was when the Fitz character was hitting his head, and just all of a sudden his head was just gone, and it was
snapped
backwards, and he had these like bones sticking out. I was just like, oh wow, that was like out of nowhere, and I was so surprised by it. Thought that was really good. Like, I was like, ooh, that's kind of creepy. I like that.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite horror scene, actually. Mm-hmm. Just when that first thing he did when he said, "My head hurts," headbutts that post and it cracks, and it's just like, well, I mean, the post itself cracks. It didn't seem to affect him at all, and they just kind of stiffened. It was like, wow, that was
that whole scene. It starts out small, like he goes, "I'm only thirsty." And then he crushes the canteen absent-mindedly. He's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of builds from there to the...
I thought the acting was great in that scene, too, where the soldiers are just, like big-eyed and just, like, kind of take a step back. One of them dropped their gun or something. They're just like, huh?
There's something about the way that progressed, because I think it started off almost like a positive. It's great that he's back. Wow, he's got, like, superpowers now. Hey, buddy, you get that feeling of this is going to be a good thing that just happened, and then it just gradually starts getting out of control.
Yeah.
You're like,
what did you do to me? Yeah. And then just the gun butt to the head over and over and over and over. And he's like, and this is the guy that wouldn't kill a mouse. And now he's killing his friend because he realizes what he did. It's like, I'll save him.
Yeah. That was kind of an important development too, really, is showing what he would be capable of for the right reason.
Right.
So you don't come into the ending with it being too, what's this pacifist going to do?
Yeah. And I don't think he's a pacifist per se.
Right.
I would say he's more of, like what you said, this is the right thing to do.
I've got a question, something else that struck me during the movie that surprised me. Did you guys think, when he rescued his friend from the lab, that was going to turn out to be a bad move?
Of course.
I did too.
Like, all the way up into that tent. They showed him just laying down in the tent at the end, like, hey, you look better. Yep.
Yeah. Thumbs up. All good.
I thought when they were pulling the thing out, I was like, no, don't do that. I thought it was gonna be a hole like the size of a can or something, but it was actually just like a spigot into him. Again, why? And
right. Were they pumping him with that shit, or
preparing to, or did they pull something out of him?
That's what I thought, is because it was the tube up and out, which made me think it was pulling out.
was that black pit in the church basement that... Isn't that also like a John Carpenter film that has like
very much so, yeah.
There's like a black pit in a church, and isn't it Prince of Darkness or something? I have never seen that one, which...
I don't remember it too well.
Okay.
I feel like I watched it a long time ago. It's not the...
Someone out there, someone's screaming at me right now, and I'm an idiot. Okay. It's on my to-watch list.
I'm just going to type in John Carpenter, Black Pit, and Church.
No, it's an exact title match. No, I am curious to see what comes up.
If I'm right, then that's yet another link to the thing.
Prince of Darkness. Yep.
Maybe we should save that to watch at some point. I shouldn't have too many questions about it, but it's an opportunity there, isn't it?
1987, yeah, that for sure.
We were really off topic at this point.
Yeah. Let's circle back around to our ratings. Jessica, what did you think?
Entertainment. I like this movie a lot, so I'd say like an 8. Horror, it has its moments that, I mean, it has its like pop up, like, wow, there's the ant, but it's also has horrific stuff, like the head that's just there
Talking.
and she's still alive.
Yep.
Oof. It's like a, I don't know, 5.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that. What do you think, Keith?
I felt reasonably engaged through the whole thing, so it's going to be probably around an 8, maybe.
Okay. Horror factor?
7, 8.
Okay.
It was, it seems like I'm rating everything about that that level anymore. I guess maybe because watching movies are a little unconventional for lack of a better word, I guess, or term.
Yeah.
As far as the way that they're approaching what should be scary, and for me, as I was saying, was the just even the surroundings of being in the wartime at the beginning, and just having, rapacious Nazis, is that the word?
I don't know.
Give in to
That's
rape.
the writer.
Say, I'm going to grab my phone here.
I
don't think that's what the word means.
I don't think it is either. But that'll be good for Patreon.
Okay, we will remove it and add it to Patreon.
Or will we? No.
Steven, what would you rate it?
As far as entertainment value, I'd rate it pretty high. I'd say a 7, pushing 8. Horror value, 6-ish.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would put my entertainment value at a 5. Just because that's, war movies aren't my favorite, but there were some great horror aspects to it that I loved. So it's middle of the road for me. I probably wouldn't buy it. The story was great. It's just, it's not my cup of tea, and that's fine. Horror factor, 5 or 6, definitely. Because, wow, that head. The head talking, that was so good. I kind of want to go back and watch that scene again, just because...
Well, because they showed just enough so you got an idea of what was going on.
Yeah.
And they didn't overdo it.
Yeah, so that was perfect, yeah.
Just the culmination of rapacious was unintentionally appropriate, I would say. I mean, there's some pun, sort of like a wordplay aspect to it, but it does mean aggressively greedy or grasping.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yes.
What word were you looking for at that point? I mean,
to describe the general who was raping the.
Okay.
Yeah. Chloe.
Okay. Oh, I get it. Rapish.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Keith, do you have anything that you would like to talk about?
I'm sure that I do. I'm sure there's something. I'm just trying to... when are we going to do this even?
It comes out not next week, but the week after.
Happy Pills will probably still be going on. As I glance up at the microphone.
Hanging
no
Pills
reason.
starts
Yes.
in March.
Yes, early March.
First week in March. Keith is one of the characters in it. Keith is playing the character in it.
I'm a minor character.
Keith is a minor character. He's an enforcer. It is about a world where people need pills to feel emotions. It's a post-apocalyptic world. It is the last of our sci-fi series at Mad Lab. So don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Other than that, follow us on Facebook, like us on Twitter. We're at Macabre_review. We can also follow all of us. Steve has a blog. Keith has a Facebook page called J. Keith Jackson. You can also follow him on Amazon, and it will give you an author alert or a follow alert when he has a new book that is out. And it's J. Keith Jackson. I am on Instagram as
Moonlit Marionette.
Moonlit Marionette, yes. But there we go, folks. This was our Overlord podcast. See you next time. Bye.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?